Bola had no idea what was waiting for her as she entered Ken's house. She realized she had been tricked, but she had no choice. She prayed silently as she faced her tormentor. That day, Bola was with her friends discussing their last semester's results when a tall, handsome young man approached them. He asked Bola to excuse him for a few minutes. Although hesitant, Bola's friends encouraged her to talk to him. "My name is Tund, and I am a final year law student. I've noticed you around, and your beauty keeps drawing me to you. I couldn't resist expressing my feelings," Tund said nervously. Bola smiled and replied, "Why would I slap you? You did nothing wrong by expressing your feelings. I'm Bola, a second-year data science student." They shook hands, and Tund felt relieved. "This is perfect. You're Bola, and I'm Tund. We're meant for each other," Tund said with a smile. Bola laughed and gave him her phone number. When she returned to her friends, they all told her not to stress too much because Tund was handsome and drove the latest Toyota. Later that evening, Tund called Bola for more discussions. He was straightforward and said he wanted marriage and wanted to introduce Bola to his wealthy father as his future wife. Bola was shocked, but accepted Tund's advances. Every day, Tund was the first person Bola spoke to and the last person she spoke to before bed. Their love grew stronger, but Bola ignored the warning signs. Tund often ended their calls, claiming he had business to attend to. 2 weeks into their relationship, Bola agreed to visit Tund at his place. When she entered the house, she realized she had been deceived. As she entered Tund's room, she saw several pairs of women's underwear. It became clear to her that she had fallen for a deceitful man. Despite knowing the truth, Bola had no way to escape, as every door to the room was locked by Tund. At that moment, her thoughts turned to her poor parents in the village, who were sponsoring her education. Bola knelt down and started begging, "Please, I am the only child of my poor parents. I am their only hope. Please don't harm me," she cried. Tund sat on the bed, looking at Bola with indifference. "When you're done with your drama, come join me in bed. You knew what to expect when you agreed to visit me," he said. "I am not a criminal. I just want you to stay here for a week, keeping my bed warm. You will donate the underwear you wear each day to me, which will renew my wealth." Bola's heart sank as she continued to cry and begged for mercy. Tund tied her to the bed and forcefully had his way. Each moment was painful for Bola, who was a virgin. Tund only stopped when Bola couldn't breathe. The next morning, Bola was still in pain when Tund entered the room. She was injured and found it difficult to walk. "I am surprised that a girl like you is still a virgin in this generation," Tund said. "You will only spend 4 days here, and I won't take your underwear. You are my girlfriend who visits me and spends time." Tund needed to perform his ritual, but because he had promised not to harm Bola, he brought in another woman that night. He forced her to undress in front of Bola and violated her while Bola watched in horror, unable to help. The next morning, Tund gave Bola a large sum of money, apologizing and begging her not to reveal his secret. He reminded her that no one knew she was there and that he could have done worse, but chose not to. Bola was in pain and couldn't find joy in the money. She had lost her dignity. When she returned to her hostel, she only told her roommate, Amina, that she had been sick and in the hospital. She ate a small portion of the food Amina gave her and took some painkillers. As she slept, she wished for the pain to go away and prayed for strength to continue her education. The next day, Bola called Tund while on campus and asked to meet him at a park. Tund was surprised but prepared himself. When Bola arrived, she explained the problem with the large amount of money he gave her. Her parents were poor, and everyone knew it. How would she explain her sudden wealth? Tund suggested organizing an online competition with a cash prize, which Bola could claim as her winnings. Bola agreed, amazed at Tund's cleverness, but wondering why he couldn't use his intelligence for legal means. Tund kept his word and organized an online essay competition. He announced Bola as the winner and presented her with a fake check during an event. As Tund handed her the check, he whispered, "I hope you will forgive me now that you're a campus celebrity." Bola remained silent, wishing she could expose Tund for who he truly was. Back in her room, Bola's friends celebrated her victory, but she cried silently, cursing Tund. Her dignity had been taken away, but she knew she had to use the money to improve her family's life. She couldn't report him or tell her story, but she could make a difference with the money. The following morning, Bola ordered a ride to her village. On the way, she bought groceries and local delicacies for her parents. When she arrived, the villagers were already celebrating her parents' success. They welcomed her with a feast, and the village elders prayed for her continued success. Bola gave the elders money for their blessings. The next morning, the building engineer Bola had spoken with arrived at her father's compound with his team. They assessed the old house and decided it was best to demolish it and build a new one. After presenting the design for a 3-bedroom bungalow, they agreed on a cost and promised to complete the project in a month. Bola's family temporarily moved in with her uncle. A month later, Bola returned to the village for the housewarming. Friends, family, and villagers gathered to celebrate. To her surprise, Tund arrived with his luxurious car. He walked confidently towards the elders and Bola's parents, ignoring Bola's angry glare. Kneeling before the elders, Tund spoke, "I organized the competition that Bola won. She is a remarkable young lady, and her parents have raised her well. To support this occasion, I will donate funds for household items and for the elders." The villagers praised Tund's generosity, but Bola's anger only grew. After the celebration, Bola's parents asked her about Tund and his marriage proposal. Bola quickly dismissed the idea, explaining that his source of wealth was questionable. A few months later, Bola began to feel unwell with a persistent cough, headache, and fever. She visited a nearby hospital, where a series of tests were conducted. The doctor informed her that she was HIV positive, but reassured her that it was not the end of her life and that there were effective treatments available. Bola was devastated and couldn't speak, thinking about how her life had been ruined. That night, Bola decided to confront Tund. She contacted a known troublemaker at school and rented a gun for a hefty fee. She called Tund and told him she wanted to visit him for the weekend. Tund was pleased, thinking Bola might have changed her mind about him. When Bola arrived at Tund's place, she kept calm and played along. She needed to sleep with him in order to achieve her aim. He kissed her and made love to her. After Tund fell asleep, Bola reached for the gun and shot him in the thigh. Tund was startled as he woke up and couldn't move. He screamed in pain, "You ruined my life, took my dignity, and gave me this infection," Bola said. "This ends today." She shot him again, this time fatally. Bola decided not to end her own life, but to tell her story to the world. She turned herself in to the police and was taken into custody. Bola's case quickly gained national attention, and journalists interviewed her. Bola narrated her story and explained that she took revenge on Tund for destroying her life. She was charged with a serious crime and had to go to court. In court, Bola provided evidence of how Tund tricked her and caused her so much pain. The messages where he apologized and how he organized the competition were presented as evidence. The prosecuting lawyer argued that taking someone's life is never justified and requested a harsh sentence for Bola. After reviewing the evidence and the circumstances, the judge sentenced Bola to 10 years in prison. Her parents were devastated, but a renowned lawyer from the village believed Bola had a good case for appeal. He volunteered to take the case to the Supreme Court. After a year of legal battles, Bola's case was finally heard by the Supreme Court. The lawyer argued that the society's weak structure allowed Tund to commit such evil acts unchecked. He presented other victims who also suffered at Tund's hands. The Supreme Court overturned the previous sentence, acknowledging the circumstances that led Bola to her actions. Bola was released and reunited with her family, but she faced health challenges due to the lack of proper medical care in prison. She traveled to the capital city for a thorough medical checkup and discovered that she was actually HIV negative. The initial test had been a mistake. Overjoyed, Bola focused on her recovery and returned to school, eventually graduating as one of the top students in her department. She secured a job with an international organization, fulfilling her dream of becoming a leading data science specialist. Despite her success, Bola found it difficult to trust men and avoided conversations about marriage, especially while having a conversation with her best friend Kemi. Her best friend, Kemi, eventually convinced her to give love another chance. Kemi's brother, Femi, who had fought for Bola's freedom, connected with her. Kemi talked to Bola about her brother who have interest on her. At first, she wasn't interested because of what had happened in the past, but as time goes on, Bola fell in love with Femi, realizing what he had done for her without expecting anything. In return, she agreed to go on a date with him as they had a good time together. They started dating, and a few months later, they got married. Their wedding became one of the most talked about events of the year. During their wedding, Bola spoke about her husband with admiration. "Femi, you believed in me when others doubted me. You saw the good in me when others only saw the bad. Thank you for loving me. I promise to stay with you for the rest of my life," Bola said with tears, as the guests stood up and applauded. 2 years after their wedding, Bola became pregnant. Femi was by her side throughout the pregnancy journey, ensuring she had the best care. They welcomed a baby boy named David, and Bola built a loving family with Femi. Her story became an inspiration to young women, teaching them the importance of resilience and the dangers of trusting too easily. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed my story. I want to read from you. Where are you watching from? And how does this story resonates with you? What do you think about this story? Comment below, share, and like this video. Don't forget to subscribe. Bye for now.